Well, I bought a bender. Reminds me of high school science. Anyways, there it is. So, we've been without flooring for the last 2 years, and it's finally happening. And with this house, the joists run that way, so the floors are going perpendicular. As for the product, we're going to go with these, engineered hardwood. I'm going to open up the boxes at the ends, and this is going to sit here for a couple of weeks to get acclimated. Also got some glue. Probably need double this actually. And then some cork as well. Typically you'd start from here, most likely moving left to right and then moving down. I'm actually going to start around here, lined up exactly parallel to the island and also to the long end of the peninsula. As for the subfloor, it is fairly flat. In terms of level, it's within tolerance. It leans slightly towards this end, so this is the lower side. Over there is higher by about 3/8 of an inch, but that's over a 33 feet span, so it's fine. The real issue with my subfloor is the squeaking, because these were nailed down without glue, as it was common back then. This is easy enough to fix though, you just have to drive a screw down beside the nail. That's what I'm doing here, driving a 3-inch deck screw beside every single nail that I see. And I'm going to do this to the entire first floor, including the living room and the hallway. For this part, you can figure it out with math, or you can physically lay them down like this and get the actual measurement of the last row spacing. So what I'm trying to avoid here is an awkwardly skinny last row. Instead, I want to work this out in advance so that I can rip the first row of planks to be a certain width that will be the same width as the last row. And that's just because it looks better to have the boundary rows to be the same width, rather than having one of them being oddly skinny. Before I start laying the floors down, there's 2 more things to take care of, and both of them need the thickness of the underlay to be taken into account. First thing is to make a notch on the side of the island. So here I'm just stacking the underlay with the plank and making the cut at that height. The second is the brick transitions. So typically the planks are laid about a 1/4 inch away from the brick, and that gap gets covered with a trim piece. I'm not a fan of that look, so instead I'm going to be cutting a rebate into the stone at the bottom. So using a masonry disc, I'm going to cut into it about 3/4 inch deep at a height of 7/8. And then using a chisel and a hammer, break off the excess. And with that, the underlay and the planks will tuck in nicely under it. This obviously takes a lot longer, but I like the look of it better. Okay, I got the laser lined up, and now this will be my reference line for everything. Here's the start of the first line of planks. Right here, I need to notch it so it doesn't actually touch the island. Basically, wherever there is any permanent structure, there needs to be at least a 1/4 inch gap. Actually, 3/8 is more often what you'll hear, but for engineered wood, 1/4 inch is fine. I've got the next 4 rows cut, moving towards the sink cabinet. I'm just laying them down dry so I can make sure they all stagger properly without any repeating patterns. So, floating installation, tongue and groove planks, it's real simple. Flip the plank over, apply the glue to the underside of the tongue, flip it back and fit it into place, and tape it so it doesn't slide off. And then you just repeat it over and over and over. And that's it. And there's the first chunk finished. These are 8-inch wide planks, so it was very quick. Also pulled the range out and installed these ramps so I can move the range in and out without having to lift it over the flooring. The back of the range is going to sit on the subfloor, and the front legs have been adjusted for the increased height to sit on the hardwood. For the register cutouts, I slide in the planks into position, mark the opening borders, and then use a square to find the intersection and make the cut. Again, slide in the plank, mark the openings, find the outline, and cut out the excess. Everything else that requires cutting into the plank, it's pretty much the same principle. You lay the planks to mark the edges, add to that 1/4 inch to account for the gap, figure out the intersection, and make the cut. And that's what I'm doing here for the rear section of the island sides. And the same thing here for the end of the peninsula, except this one is a little more tricky. So here you can see I removed the bottom row of the cedar siding on the wall so that the floor can tuck right under it. When the floors are done, I'm going to shave off the bottom, what's needed to accommodate the new height of the floor, and then install them back on. Okay, time to make some more mess. Okay, halfway done. I have one more major obstacle left still. Gotta remove all this tile. That is all the tiles for now. I'm not touching the bathroom. So the only thing left to do is to cut the bricks at the bottom, and then it'll be back to the floors. So half of the living room is done, and half of the hallway as well. And for the next row, I need to address the door jamb. I'm gonna need to cut it off a bit. Underlay, plus the plank, and a pole saw takes care of that. And now it can slide right underneath the jamb. I just need to make sure that all the planks line up with the tongues intact at the end, right under where the door will be at the closed state. When I redo the bathroom, I'm going to lay the floors perpendicular to this with the groove going over the tongue. One more row to go for the living room and the entrance. I already ripped all the pieces to be the correct width. All I need to do is apply the glue, fit them into place, and secure them using the pull bar. Only thing left now is to make the threshold, or the patio door, and the back of the island. So I'm going to rip a long strip that's about 1.25 inches from the groove side, and then I'm going to cut the bottom lip off so it looks like this in the end. And that will be used as the threshold at the patio door and the island backside. And that's everything. Living room, hallway, and the kitchen. So that's it. Everything's been laid out. All the thresholds are prepped. Brick transitions look nice and clean without the need for extra trimming. And the floors are now done. Next episode, I'll be showing the making of the sink cabinet doors. Until then, that's about that.